in what used to be the heart of the caliphate. 11 years ago, this very church was the site of a terrorist attack that left dozens of Christian worshipers dead. Tonight, in the first ever visit by a pope to Iraq, Pope Francis with a message of peace and tolerance, urging us all to, quote, look beyond our differences and see each other as members of the same human family. Our Ian panel is in Iraq, tracking this historic moment and the major security concerns that come with it. You may be used to cars racing around this track, but tonight the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway is helping our country win a different race. Today was day one of a vaccination clinic there. The governor of Indiana getting his shot, describing it as a 2.4-second pit stop. But nationwide, some states are racing to reopen, easing restrictions and fueling concerns about another surge in cases. The Senate also with another step towards getting COVID relief to the American people, why it could be a long weekend in Washington to get the bill to the finish line. Embattled New York Governor Andrew Cuomo facing new scrutiny about those allegations over how he handled the pandemic. This comes as Democrats in his own state move to strip him of his emergency powers. An ABC News exclusive, our Martha Raddatz sits down with new Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
Has Iran been given the message that this is not an escalation when we retaliate?
This Women's History Month, our conversation with one woman making history right now, speaking up for some of the hardest hit during the pandemic.
We need to value care work in this nation for the first time in history.
The rare surgery giving one man devastated by COVID a second chance at life.
You're the best.
Good evening, I'm Juju Chang in for Lindsay Davis. Thank you for streaming with us tonight. We begin with the latest on our nation's progress in the battle against COVID-19. About 1 in 11 Americans has tested positive since the beginning of this pandemic, but cases have now plateaued and hospitalizations are the lowest we've seen since October. And while experts warn we're not totally out of the woods yet, more states are loosening restrictions. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey signing an executive order lifting all COVID-19 capacity restrictions. Maine also relaxing their travel and capacity limits ahead of their tourism season. This as President Biden warns that if dramatic action isn't taken to help Americans during this economic crisis, it could take 2 years for us to get back on track. Our Whit Johnson leads us off tonight from New York.
Despite warnings from health officials, tonight the growing wave of reopenings across the country. Arizona, the latest to open businesses to full capacity. The state already among 16 that either have no statewide mask mandates or have just moved to lift them, like Mississippi and Texas. And tonight, the debate heating up on both sides. Shop owner Julie Roberts in Galveston ready for more customers.
Y'all are ready for spring break?
We are ready for spring break, yeah, for everybody to come in and shop.
But others arguing we're almost there. Why take the risk? Like Rosalie Anthony.
It's just not time yet. People need to get vaccinated more, I think, before it's time to really ease up on restrictions.
And then the efforts trying to meet in the middle. Starting April 1st, if cases are low enough, California will allow theme parks to reopen at 15% capacity and outdoor spectator sports like Major League Baseball at 20%. This after a new CDC report showing mask mandates were associated with a drop in COVID cases and deaths about 20 days later. The findings also linked restaurants with on-site dining to an increase in infections 6 weeks later and deaths 2 months later.
I know the idea of relaxing mask wearing and getting back to everyday activities is appealing, but we're not there yet. We have seen this movie before. When prevention measures like mask mandates are rolled back, cases go up.
In Detroit, controversy. The city turning down more than 6,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine.
Johnson & Johnson is a very good vaccine. Moderna and Pfizer are the best. And I am going to do everything I can to make sure the residents of the city of Detroit get the best.
But today, Mayor Mike Duggan attempting to clarify, calling the J&J shot safe and effective, saying the city had enough capacity with the other vaccines, and they will soon offer J&J at a different site. The White House COVID team stressing that all 3 authorized vaccines prevent hospitalizations and death.
I would take the first available vaccine because the most important thing to do is to get vaccinated and not to try and figure out what one may be or may not be better than the other.
And the FDA tonight is now issuing an alert about those thermal scanners used at airports, schools, and businesses. The FDA is saying that in some cases they could pose a potential danger to public health because they could give inaccurate temperature readings for a variety of reasons. The FDA also says that the risk is more likely when the scanner is running multiple people through the system at the same time. Juju?
Whit, our thanks to you. Now to the fight in Congress today to get COVID relief to the American people before March 14th, when millions stand to lose unemployment benefits. The race against the clock has Democrats fending off challenges from Republicans and even some Democrats. Our congressional correspondent Rachel Scott reports.
Tonight, President Joe Biden pushing lawmakers to get moving as the Senate wrangles over his $1.9 trillion COVID rescue plan.
At least 7 million kids don't have enough food to eat on a regular basis. 13 million people are behind in their rent. And the rescue plan is absolutely essential for turning this around.
The bill would provide billions to fight COVID, help small businesses, and send $1,400 direct payments to most Americans. This week, in a concession to moderate Democratic senators, Biden agreeing to limit those payments to people making up to $75,000 a year. People making up to $80,000 would get a smaller check. And today, Democratic leaders offered up another concession, proposing to extend unemployment benefits through September, but to shrink the payments from $400 a week to $300. That's a bitter pill for Karen Smith, a mom in Jupiter, Florida, who lost her job at the beginning of the pandemic.
Reducing that weekly amount is just horrible. We have gone so long with so little, and it is so hard to work towards stabilizing and getting it all together when all you can do is panic about how you're going to pay your bills.
And Rachel Scott joins us now from Washington. Rachel, what's the bottom line here? Do Democrats have the votes they need to pass this bill? And when might we see that vote?
Yeah, well, right now, Juju, it's really one moderate Democratic Senator, Joe Manchin. He is holding up this process right now. He's not fully on board just yet. So tonight, we know that President Joe Biden, he is working the phones. He is trying to get this bill across the finish line because remember, lawmakers here are up against a deadline. In just 9 days, unemployment benefits for millions of Americans are set to expire. So Democrats want to get this bill on President Joe Biden's desk before then, and they're vowing to work through the weekend in order to do it, Juju.
And Rachel, clearly today's speed bump, just another indication of how tenuous governing is in a split 50-50 Senate.
Yeah, we are really learning the power of one senator that could really tip the scales either way here. You have a 50-50 split there in the Senate right now. And so Democrats need their party to stay unified. They need them to stay united on this. And frankly, so do Republicans. They're also trying to send a very strong message to the Biden administration. They are still blasting that $1.9 trillion price tag. They say it's just too high, Juju.
Teetering between the parties. Thank you, Rachel Scott. And we turn now to embattled New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Some state lawmakers tonight are moving to strip him of his emergency powers granted during this pandemic to handle the health and economic crisis here in New York. As we also hear from one of his former aides now accusing him of sexual harassment. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
He promoted himself as the face of competent leadership in the pandemic.
We are New York tough.
But tonight, the New York State Legislature voting to strip Governor Andrew Cuomo of the emergency powers he was granted to handle COVID.
This governor's inability to see outside of his own ego cannot continue to go unchecked.
It came as the New York Times reported the governor's staff rewrote a report in June, taking out the fact that more than 9,000 New Yorkers had already died in nursing homes. Today, the governor's office said the number was removed because it had not been verified. It's just one of the scandals Cuomo is facing. Two former aides now accusing him of sexual harassment.
He is a textbook abuser.
Charlotte Bennett says the governor asked her about her sex life, whether she was monogamous, and whether she had ever slept with an older man. She spoke with CBS News.
He wanted a girlfriend. When he said he was lonely, I mentioned that his daughters had been around, and he also rejected that and said, yeah, I love my daughters, but I want a girlfriend. I thought, he's trying to sleep with me. The governor's trying to sleep with me. And I'm deeply uncomfortable, and I have to get out of this room as soon as possible.
Cuomo says Bennett misinterpreted him.
I now understand that I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly and deeply apologize for it.
And Juju, Charlotte Bennett says it's not a matter of how she felt, but of what he did. She says, quote, "It is an issue of his actions. The fact is that he was sexually harassing me and has not apologized for that." Juju.
Our thanks to Stephanie for that report. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran have been playing out in Iraq for weeks now, with U.S. troops coming under fire and missile attacks for a second time this week. Today, ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent and This Week co-anchor Martha Raddatz spoke with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in his first broadcast interview about the attacks and the U.S. response.
This week, we saw a second significant attack with those 10 rockets. Do you know who did it, and what kind of responses might we expect?
We want to make sure that, again, we understand who's responsible for this. The message to those that would carry out such an attack is that, expect us to do what's necessary to defend ourselves. We'll strike if that's what we think we need to do at a time and place of our own choosing.
Has Iran been given the message that this is not an escalation when we retaliate?
I think Iran is fully capable of assessing, the strike and our activities, and they'll draw their own conclusions. But what they should draw from this, again, is that we're going to defend our troops, and we're going to, our response will be thoughtful. It will be appropriate.
And Martha Raddatz joins me now from Washington. Martha, this is clearly a delicate diplomatic balancing act for the Biden administration right now in how to respond to Iran.
Exactly right, Juju. Delicate is the right word. These Iranian-backed militias not only want the U.S. out of the Middle East, there are some factions that don't want Iran to renegotiate the nuclear deal with the U.S. And the fear with these tit-for-tat attacks is that they escalate or that one side or the other overreacts. But Secretary Austin told me he is keeping a close eye on all of that and trying to find that balance. Juju.
And Martha, this is just clearly one clip. You had a wide-ranging conversation with Austin, who's the first Black defense secretary to lead the Pentagon. What are some of the other topics you touched on?
We talked about extremism in the military. I have actually known General, now Secretary Austin, for many, many years. And I think the last time we did an interview together was in Iraq. We talked about where we are in Iraq now, how you go forward, but extremism and his historic as Secretary of Defense. It is historic. He is the first Black Secretary of Defense. He talked about that, what that means to him. And the thing that really moved me is he said he does not want to be the last Black Secretary of Defense. Juju.
Clearly breaking barriers. Martha Raddatz, thank you. And you can see much more of Martha's interview with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin this Sunday morning on This Week. When we come back, Pope Francis makes his historic first visit to Iraq. Our Ian panel is on the ground there with more on the high-stakes trip and the security risks that come with it. Also, the woman pepper sprayed with a 3-year-old by her side, what police are saying tonight about the incident. And the drama at Buckingham Palace, the growing anticipation and expected fallout from Meghan and Harry's upcoming tell-all interview.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir.
We have made it through another week together.
America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Lunchtime at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC. It's all about you.
Can I kick it?
Yes, I can.
Tuesday night on Soul of a Nation. It will be powerfully great.
I see the tears in your eyes. When you started Black Lives Matter, did you ever imagine something like this?
Yes, but...
See, now you're going to have all of us crying.
Real stories, real conversation, and there will be music.
Soul of a Nation.
Tuesday night at 10, 9 Central on ABC.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Friday nights, 9, 8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True Crime 2020. Friday nights, 9, 8 Central on ABC.
The reality is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads, it's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown hate, the war among us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. #1 in the morning, #1 in the evening, with America's most watched newscast. #1 in late night versus the competition. The #1 news magazine on Friday nights. #1 in politics across this historic election versus the competition. The #1 daytime talk show. And #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
Pope Francis is on the ground in Iraq tonight, the first pontiff ever to visit that war-ravaged country. The Pope calling himself a pilgrim of peace for all the children of Abraham. But it's a high-risk visit during a pandemic and with lingering conflict in the country. ABC's senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Iraq.
Tonight, Pope Francis in Iraq amid unprecedented security. Francis forgoing his usual Pope-mobile, instead protected by a huge cordon of heavily armed troops. Iraqis ignoring orders not to line the streets, instead coming out to cheer.
We can't express our joy. All Iraqis are happy, not just Christians. We hope it will be a blessed day for us and for all the Iraqi people.
Pope Francis personally insisted on making the visit to show solidarity with Iraqis, ignoring warnings it's too risky. I come as a pilgrim of peace, he said. May the clash of arms be silenced. He was taken by armoured car to the church where ISIS suicide bombers killed 48 worshippers in 2010. During his 3-day trip, he'll come here to the Christian town of Karakosh, once overrun by ISIS militants. ISIS murdered, raped and pillaged across Iraq, destroying lives and communities, driving hundreds of thousands of Christians and Yazidis from their homes. They desecrated ancient churches like this one. You can see where they used it as a firing range, destroying these ancient biblical texts carved in Aramaic, the language of Jesus. So when Pope Francis comes here on Sunday, his message of peace and coexistence will be heard by Iraqis. But don't underestimate, the challenge is going to be immense. The Pope's trip is a glimmer of hope for a beleaguered community. After years of violence, war and persecution, volunteers came back to the shell-shocked cities of Mosul and Karakosh, diligently prepping for the Pope's arrival. But everywhere, there are physical scars to remind the people here of the years of war and suffering they've endured. We watched a boy and his father setting up gold stanchions for the Pope's visit. This is what remains of the Al-Tahira Church in Mosul, Iraq's second largest city. Father Emmanuel Adel is the sole priest left in Mosul. His entire congregation were forced to flee for their lives when ISIS took over. Many have yet to return, yet still he has hope and faith for the future.
We thank the Pope for visiting Iraq and hope that Iraq gets back some of its culture. He's not here just to visit the Christians of Iraq. He's coming to visit everyone. The Father brings with him coexistence and brotherhood with all faiths. He puts humanity before religion.
With the Pope now here, perhaps a message that Christians in the region are no longer alone, that sectarian divisions can end. But it'll take more than words and prayers to heal the pain and suffering of Iraq.
And Ian Pannell joins me now. Ian, this is no doubt an historic visit. What else can we expect to see from the Pope's agenda this weekend?
Yeah, that's right, Juju. Truly historic, something that the people of Iraq have awaited for a very long time. So, early tomorrow morning, the Pope heads south to the ancient city of believed to be the birthplace of the patriarch Abraham, or Ibrahim, seen as the patriarch, of course, of Christianity, of Judaism, and of Islam, before then heading to Najaf, again, another holy city here in Iraq, but it's also home to Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani. He is one of the most influential Shia religious leaders in the world. And just that idea of having the head of the Catholic Church together with the head, or certainly one of the leaders of Shia Islam, I think will send a very powerful signal around this region. He then, on Sunday, will go to Mosul. Mosul, of course, was where Baghdadi declared the caliphate of ISIS. He's going to visit some of those centers that ISIS occupied, including one of the main churches, the Catholic Church in the center of ISIS, has been badly destroyed. We've been in there filming. This ancient church is a shadow of its former self. It's where the ISIS religious police were based. It's also where ISIS declared that they were going to go to Rome. They were going to occupy Rome. Well, instead, it's the Pope, it's Rome that's coming on a pilgrimage to Mosul. He'll then end up here in Erbil for a huge outdoor mass later on Sunday evening, heading home to Italy on Monday.
That's a lot of ground to cover in a region that you know and have reported on so well. And we also know the Pope is getting a little flack today for not wearing a mask regularly.
Yes, I mean, this had been a big issue before the Pope had even departed because, of course, the pandemic is global and it is here in Iraq and the numbers of infections are going upwards again. So there are lots of questions. Should the Pope go together, come to Iraq in the middle of that? Isn't there a risk that when he has this outdoor mass, when he meets in churches with people, when crowds gather, that they're potentially super spreader events? The Vatican said it had taken all necessary safety precautions. People would be socially distancing. People would be wearing masks. And then there's suddenly the sight of the Pope not wearing masks. Now, we do know that the Pope was vaccinated. He's received both vaccines, both doses of the vaccine before this trip, as has everyone else on his plane. The Vatican, for its part, feels that it's acting safely in accordance with guidelines. But let's see how the next few days go on, especially here in Erbil, when you've got thousands and thousands of people gathered outdoors. I can tell you, outdoors here, we saw today in the Friday market, thousands of people gathered, cheek by cheek, no social distancing, and not a mask in sight. Juju?
And also, there are recommendations that even once you get vaccinated, you should remain masked. Thank you so much, Ian, for your reporting from Iraq. And coming up on Prime, the Trump appointee arrested in connection with the insurrection at the Capitol. Also, concerns about getting the vaccine to corners of the country lacking pharmacies. We go by the numbers. And sand shortage? Why the world is running out of this key commodity. But first, our tweet of the day, the NFL welcoming Maya Chaka, the first black female official in league history. Congratulations.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it. The reality is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads. It's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown hate, the war among us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America in the afternoon?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Lunchtime at 1 Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific on ABC. It's all about you.
24 hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir.
We have made it through another week together.
America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
In recognition of all you've done, the people of the world hereby crown you Queen of Soul.
Make sure the world only sees the Aretha Franklin you want them to.
You got to disturb the peace when you can't get no peace.
This is what you were meant to do.
Genius, Aretha. Premieres Sunday, March 21st at 9 on National Geographic.
We turn now to COVID-19 vaccine equity and an ABC News investigation finding that millions of Americans live in so-called pharmacy deserts where there's little to no access to vaccination sites. Here's a closer look by the numbers. There are 150 counties in the U.S. where there is no pharmacy, particularly in states like Texas, Nebraska, and Montana. And nearly 4.8 million Americans live in a county where there's only one pharmacy for every 10,000 residents or more, according to an ABC News analysis of pharmacy locations across the country. Rural pharmacies must serve nearly 2 times the number of people than urban pharmacies on average, and in rural communities, there's only one chain drugstore per 30,299 residents. Compare that to 1 per 9,346 residents in urban areas on average. But even in cities, our investigation found that pharmacies and chain drugstores are usually more sparse in mostly black and brown communities compared to mostly white ones, like in Chicago, where 1 million people live in a pharmacy desert, where there's less than one pharmacy per 10,000 residents. And still to come on Prime, OnlyFans, the subscription viewing service that's allowed some people to quit their jobs by losing their clothes. And the shocking scene on a city street, a crash spilling onto the sidewalk in an outdoor dining area. And the new clip of Meghan claiming Buckingham Palace monitored her calls, the latest in the royal family drama. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
We will guide you through it all tonight. We have made it through another week together.
Big hug, Griffin.
We tell all our patients how much they're loved. We hold their hands.
David, we're showing our love and support for all the ICU staff.
They're the heroes in this.
Can I kick it? Yes, I can.
Tuesday night on Soul of a Nation. It will be powerfully great.
I see the tears in your eyes. When you started Black Lives Matter, did you ever imagine something like this?
Yes, but...
See, now you're gonna have all of us crying.
Real stories, real conversation.
It's just beautiful being able to, like, be around people who really feel like they understand you. Like, we're all here for, like, a common goal.
We're ready for this.
Soul of a Nation. Plus.
Gotta be the shoes.
It's gotta be the shoes.
Sneaker talk, TikTok. And things are about to ignite when Her gives this special performance.
Tuesday night at 10, 9 Central on ABC.
Soul
of a Nation.
We are the soul of a nation.
on. This is Common, and I hope you'll watch Soul of a Nation. I'll be watching.
The reality is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads, it's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown Hate, The War Among Us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
Friday nights, 9/8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime. 2020. Friday nights, 9/8 Central on ABC.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Tonight, the growing wave of reopenings across the country. Arizona, the latest to open businesses to full capacity. The state already among 16 that either have no statewide mask mandates or have just moved to lift them, like Mississippi and Texas.
West Virginia Governor Jim Justice speaking out on CNN.
But I don't know really what the big rush to get rid of the mask is, because these masks have saved a lot of lives.
I know the idea of relaxing mask wearing and getting back to everyday activities is appealing, but we're not there yet.
The FBI has arrested a former Trump administration appointee. He's charged in connection with the January 6th Capitol siege.
Federico Klein had a top-secret security clearance in the Trump administration State Department and was still a government employee when the FBI said he assaulted a federal law enforcement officer during the insurrection. Court records said Klein appeared on video violently shoving a riot shield between doors that officers were trying to close. In another video, Klein was allegedly heard calling to the crowd behind him, "We need fresh people." The tipster told the FBI Klein had exhibited extreme behavior, including inflammatory rhetoric about President Biden and Vice President Harris.
New concern over police actions in Rochester, New York. Police releasing video showing an officer pepper spraying a mother in front of her 3-year-old child last month. Officers responded to a call about a shoplifter. She was sprayed during a struggle. Her child was not. The officer is on administrative leave. A chaotic scene in the streets of New York.
As traffic rolled south on 2nd Avenue, the white van smashed right into the back of a Toyota Camry.
A big loud noise. Boom!
The force launching the car into the outdoor dining setup of the Crawfish Bar that was closed. Watch from a different angle. As children appeared to cross in a crosswalk and a woman was about to sip her coffee, the car spun out, shooting debris into the intersection of 50th and 2nd Avenue. The wreck wreaking havoc for nearly 2 city blocks, sawing down a street line before the white van mowed down the scaffolding of this building, exploding a fruit stand where the worker had just moved to get warm.
Otherwise, by now he's gonna be dead.
The van wrapped around a pole. 8 people injured, including 2 5- and 7-year-old boys, hurt from flying debris. All are expected to survive, including the driver of the van, who police now suspect suffered a medical episode.
It's a problem we don't expect, but the world, it seems, is running out of sand.
To see the Sahara Desert, you would think the supply is endless, but we humans use a lot of sand. In road construction, in computer chips, and of course,
glass is mostly made of sand with a couple of other chemicals added.
Environmental scientists are sounding the alarm. The global demand for sand is outpacing the planet's ability to produce it. They're calling on the construction industry, for example, to use recycled concrete in the building of roads and buildings because, they say, time is running out.
Like sands through the hourglass.
And now to the story that has both the U.S. and the U.K. riveted, the growing battle among the British royals, and the new clip tonight from that Oprah Winfrey interview, why Harry and Meghan had to turn her down when she first asked. Their answer tonight. ABC's James Longman has the latest.
Once celebrated as the future of Britain's monarchy, tonight Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan further widening the rift between the two families. In an upcoming interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan claims palace aides intervened when Winfrey asked her for an interview months before the 2018 wedding.
You turned me down nicely and said, perhaps there will be another time when there's the right time. What is right about this time?
Well, so many things. We have the ability to make our own choices in a way that I couldn't have said yes to you then. That wasn't my choice to make.
Joining the royal family means not sharing opinions, but Meghan, it seems, found that too restricting.
It's really liberating to be able to have the right and the privilege in some ways to be able to say yes.
This new clip comes just as Buckingham Palace took an unprecedented step, opening an investigation into bullying claims against the Duchess.
It was definitely an intensely difficult working environment. People were in tears on a regular basis.
While Harry and Meghan won't be involved in the investigation, senior aides are expected to be questioned. Meghan's office has called the report a smear campaign.
Critics also asking if the palace is going to investigate the Duchess, why not also look into Prince Andrew, who faces even more serious allegations around his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing.
In another clip, Prince Harry acknowledging the challenges of leading royal life.
It's been unbelievably tough for the two of us, but at least we had each other.
And James Longman is here with us now. James, do we have any clues about why they're investigating those bullying allegations against Meghan now? And what's the latest on Meghan's friends coming to her defense?
Gigi, the timing does feel a bit odd. It does feel like it could be in reaction to the big sit-down interview with Oprah. But, you know, there have been these allegations swirling around for some time around Meghan's behaviour, alleged behaviour in the palace. It all goes back, cast your minds back to that beautiful wedding that we all saw in 2018. This investigation circles around an email sent about 5 months after that wedding from the personal private secretary at Kensington Palace to Buckingham Palace, here behind me, saying, you need to help us here at Kensington Palace. We've had allegations of bullying, need to come to our aid. And they talked about, you know, members of staff feeling, quote, humiliated. There being emotional cruelty directed towards some staff. And we heard at the time that there were several PAs who'd left the household completely, and the HR department was involved. So, look, that's what they're investigating. The difficulty is, of course, that there could be a whole can of worms opened, and other principals, other senior members of the royal family could end up being involved. So the investigation has to kind of tread lightly. And as for Meghan's friends, well, we've seen a number of them, her old co-stars from Suits, come out on Twitter very vociferously in her favour, saying that basically the royal family, the monarchy is outdated, it's overrated, and everyone should believe Meghan. Look, both sides are going to come out very strongly on this. I don't know if this interview is going to help, you know, change anyone's minds. It all just further puts people in their own camps. But we'll see what happens on the weekend.
Well, Meghan and Harry clearly have had a tough break from the royal family since they stepped back. How could this investigation, do you think, impact their fractured relationship moving forward?
It's not going to help, Juju. I mean, look, I don't know if you can just see behind me there. You can see the balcony at Buckingham Palace. Every time you see pictures of the royal family, normally it's up there on that balcony, waving at all of us down here, screaming with our Union Jacks. I can't see them being invited back up onto that balcony anytime soon. But remember Camilla? Remember how ostracized she was for all those years? Now she's back. She's part of the family again. So as bad as this could get, as ugly as it could get, and I think it's going to get really, really ugly, there's always a way back. So we keep our fingers crossed. Gigi?
I like your optimism. Family drama. Thank you, James. Turning now to the phenomenon of OnlyFans, a subscription service that's taken the gig economy to the adult entertainment industry, with plenty of mainstream crossover in between. And you're about to see some of the people who are using OnlyFans to build their audience and their brand. Some household names, and some folks you haven't heard of, at least not yet. So with my help from my friends at Nightline, you know I love that show, we present a portion of the Hulu documentary, OnlyFans, Selling Sexy.
I do love that there's a bunch of peacock motifs here, and I have a peacock kimono, so I definitely will be using that and some similar toned underwear to shoot. OnlyFans is weird. Like, it seems like there's a desire for like the very extreme like pornographic type stuff, you know? But then there's also this large interest in like people doing everyday activities, but like in their underwear or like naked. I like the use of the reds in the kitchen too, so I'll probably do some red underwear in here. Some people are full-time OnlyFans creators, and I know that there are accounts that make in excess of like $10,000 a month doing this.
It's like I'm nervous, but I'm not nervous at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, my mom and I are very open with each other. My parents, they're not judgmental people, so anything that I do that's new, I talk to my mom about it. Like, I've never did a threesome before, so I just kind of wanted to get her opinion on it. Am I a little curious? Yes, I am. And I know I'm gonna make money from it, so.
I mean, and then I like your business mind.
Right.
That's what I appreciate.
I couldn't afford Christmas gifts for my family, so I dropped one little video of my butt. I had made $1,300 that day, and then it just kind of went from there. I have 1.3K subscribers. I'm top 1.2%.
I guess a lot of it seems to be like up to people's imagination. Like they seem to be intrigued by the concept of being present for these like private type things.
So OnlyFans started in the summer of 2016.
It was primarily a platform used by sex workers. OnlyFans is a subscription-based platform.
People pay anywhere from $5 to $25 a month.
In exchange for that fee, you get access to the content on their main feed.
You could message them, make yourself known through tips. They could actually create things specifically for you.
OnlyFans keeps 20%, and the content creator takes home 80% of their earnings.
OnlyFans is massively a part of the pop culture zeitgeist right now.
Cardi B joining OnlyFans was also huge.
She started it right around the release of WAP,
Now from the top, make it drop. That's some wet and cushy.
which was her smash hit in 2020.
I'm talking wop, wop, wop.
Cardi B was probably for me the first person to get people's eyes and attention on the site in a way that didn't have to do with sex or sex work.
Cardi B announced her plans for OnlyFans in an Instagram post. She also made clear that she would not be using it to show her naked body or anything like that.
None of that stuff, you know what I'm saying?
The best thing that she posted was a behind the scenes of the filming of the video for WAP, in which you see, for example, her and Megan Thee Stallion.
This is our albino Burmese.
Like them having snakes put on their body.
It's cool.
We have Chris Brown.
Now, why are you tipping this rich man? I think I'm gonna start an OnlyFans.
Please do it, Lonnie Love. Michael B. Jordan's mustache.
His name is Murphy. Got an OnlyFans coming.
Is that an OnlyFans account? Wow, so why not?
Bella Thorne is probably the most infamous celebrity to join OnlyFans.
Bella actually getting a little angry, talking on about it.
Big name stars changed it so dramatically. My income went like this, 2018, 19, 2020.
OnlyFans broke out in a very big way in 2020.
This is the year of disconnect. People are dying for intimacy. They're craving connection.
One of the most fascinating shifts is how in the last 2 years you see everyday people getting on the platform.
We're on live on OnlyFans.
You're watching them in their living room. It's raw.
This is Le Boyfriend. He came with me so that we can shoot some videos.
There's no sound people, there's no camera people, there's no angles. So you're literally brought into their lives.
But for a lot of workers, this is their full-time job, their only means of making money.
You have to know how far you're willing to go and where you're not willing to go. You can wake up and realize that you've let your fans and money and pressure push you farther than you wanted to go. You can't take that back.
You got some exciting news this morning. What did you learn?
I did. Someone made me aware that I was nominated for MILF Performer of the Year. I just like being recognized for my work, which is nice. So this is my OnlyFans page, and as you can see on just the home page, everything I post, I offer a variety of things. I offer custom pictures, custom videos.
It's contest time, guys, and this year I'm giving away a date with me.
I sell merchandise on my site. So this is where I keep all of my lingerie pieces. It's just piece after piece after piece. And I've sold a lot of pieces. Personally, in my OnlyFans, I see about a $15,000 a month income. So these are my messages here. This is a new user here, so he's just gotten what my guidelines are for my site. He can message me back and forth, but I do ask if you're going to send a picture of your penis, which does happen, that you also send along a $20 tip. I also do a thing where I call it my boyfriend for the week, so they'll receive a little extra special attention. Little things, just anything to make you feel like you're spending more time with me than anybody else gets, because my time is incredibly valuable. So yeah, it's nice for me to be able to put a price tag on that time. A big thing about studio work that you do is sometimes you just say, I gotta grin and bear it, and you do a lot of things you don't want to do. Perfect. Beautiful. I love it. OnlyFans allows me to be my own director, producer, booker, everything. I have the ability now to say no. I know I can make just as much money sitting at home doing my own stuff than I would spending 8 hours on a set working for a director who I probably don't like.
To be successful on OnlyFans, you have to market yourself. It's a 24-hour thing sometimes. The goal is 150,000 by my 1-year mark. There's no doubt in my mind that I'll reach it.
You have these that just came in.
Oh, that's cute.
To me, they kind of scream dominatrix.
So my job was to book corporate travel for business travelers. At first, I was working in Singapore, and then I came back to America. It wasn't until I made my OnlyFans that I realized that I was kind of wasting my time. I was making more money on my twerk videos on OnlyFans than I was at my job. So I'm like, okay, if I make $10,000 a month, I am quitting my job. So by February, I quit. Like, that was that. I'm like, all right, maybe this really isn't a fluke. Maybe this is something that I can actually do. So remember, I said within an hour I should be at 10,000, so I'm at 10,000 now. My goal is reached. Now anything else is like extra money. It's like a weight off my shoulder, because that's at least the bare minimum that I want to reach for the month.
Thank you so much, Ms. Winter.
Thank you. COVID, we didn't know about it until March. At the time, I was like, dang, I just quit my job. Like, is it going to be over? Because people were losing their jobs, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? When I tell you that when COVID hit, that was my highest paid month, it was crazy.
Things go in fads. So that's why I say get in now, make your money, because we don't know how much longer it's going to be there. And especially for sex workers.
Our thanks to my friends at Nightline for that. And now we turn to one man's second chance at life. After a devastating battle with coronavirus, doctors performed the 4th ever post-COVID lung transplant in the U.S. And we got a rare peek.
At 43, Leo Castillo was loving life as a husband and father, active, healthy, with a zest for life and a sense of humor. But in the spring of 2020, COVID ripped through his household. By May, Leo wound up in the hospital, put on a ventilator.
Transplant is always should be the option of last resort.
Though free of COVID, the virus essentially destroyed his lungs, meaning the organ simply couldn't recover.
You know, your lungs are pretty badly damaged from the virus.
But a rare and risky double lung transplant turned out to be his only hope for survival.
You feeling okay? Yeah? You feel like you've gotten stronger in the last few days? Yeah?
Dr. Ankit Bharat of Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago is spearheading the effort. He was the first ever to try this surgery on a COVID patient in the U.S. And just 6 days after Leo was listed for transplant,
let's do this.
There's word of a potential donor.
We're heading out to take a look at the lungs and give a thumbs up if everything looks fine.
Lung looks fine, Dr. Bharat.
Okay, great. Can you please send me some pictures?
Yes, sure.
Great. All right, that's great. You know, so the lungs are usable and it's going to be a go.
Suddenly, it's go time. Dr. Bharat immediately heads to Leo's room with the life-changing news. After a harrowing surgery, Leo survives, but is still not out of the woods. There is a long, brutal recovery ahead.
You said you want to eat a hamburger when you get better. So here is a hamburger for you. Is it good? All right.
I want to say thank you. You are the best. Yeah, you are the best.
And we followed Leo's recovery for months now, and it's been nothing short of breathtaking watching his progress. Meanwhile, Dr. Barat has now performed 12 such COVID lung transplants. Leo, you'll recall, was the 4th. And Dr. Barat has consulted with other hospitals who in total have now performed more than 50 of these surgeries. Nothing short of pioneering medicine. Well, March is Women's History Month, and one woman making history right now leads the union representing 2 million service and care workers, those so often deemed essential workers who were hardest hit during the COVID pandemic. Mary Kay Henry is the international president of the Service Employees International Union, the first woman to hold that position in the union's 100-year history. Thank you for joining us, Mary Kay.
Glad to be with you.
Well, let's talk about who makes up the SEIU. Who are your members, and what are the unique challenges that they faced during the pandemic?
Our members are on the front lines of healthcare in every setting, hospitals, nursing homes, and home and community-based care. We are in airports, downtown office buildings, both as janitors and security officers, and we are in public services. Many of our unemployment claims processors slept overnight in their offices to process unemployment claims during the pandemic, and we support the fast food workers who are demanding 15 in a union.
And yet I suspect that they suffered disproportionately throughout the pandemic.
Yes, it was a very, very tough year. Daily, I would receive names of members who are local leaders in states all across the country and in Canada and Puerto Rico. We're getting reports of both infection and death. And at our convention, we scrolled a video for 4 minutes with individual names to honor the lives that we've lost and to rededicate ourselves to organizing on their behalf and making sure that every service and care worker is respected, protected, and paid what they're worth.
And yet, during the pandemic, so many of the jobs lost were by women. In fact, many were calling it the she session. The SEIU is such overwhelmingly female, in fact, almost 70% female. What will it take, do you think, to get women back to work?
I think it's really important that in the next action of government, that there's an investment in care jobs, both child care and home care, so that women who are working can leave with peace of mind knowing that their children and that their parents or the family members with disabilities can stay safely at home and be cared for by a provider who can also care for herself. We need to value care infrastructure in this country like we did auto and steel jobs of the last century. And that's a way for every family to truly benefit from a recovery.
You mentioned minimum wage, and as you well know, the Senate is currently debating the COVID relief bill. And as of now, raising the minimum wage is off the table. What would a raise in the minimum wage have meant for people that you represent? And what is next in the fight to secure an increase?
It's transformative to go from $7.25 an hour to $9.20, which was going to be the first step in raising the wage up to $15 by 2025. And already 42% of the American workforce is on that path. We need Congress to do its job and raise wages for the other 60% of essential workers, 6 in 10 of whom are women, need more money in their pockets so they can provide for their families and so that our children can do better than we've done.
We know the federal COVID relief bill will offer assistance to millions of Americans, except for one group, and that is undocumented workers who are not eligible. You have argued strenuously for a path to citizenship for those who are here in the U.S. undocumented. What can the SEIU do to move the Citizenship Act forward?
Well, we've linked our demand for 15 in a union to include a path to citizenship. We've made the case and support rewarding and honoring the sacrifices of essential workers by creating a path to citizenship for the 5 million essential workers who've been showing up during the pandemic, but who remain undocumented. And we fully support and have linked arms with the immigration movement, racial justice, women's groups to demand a comprehensive immigration reform in this country. And we're going to use this moment where we showed up in record numbers in November of 20 to demand from elected officials all across parties, Republican, Independent, and Democrats, that now is the time to make sure that the 11 million undocumented families in this country have a path to citizenship. We can't crush the virus if we have workers and families excluded from public benefits and health care in this nation. And we have to raise wages for all workers across the service and care sector, including every immigrant worker.
And before I let you go, I want to ask you about some news involving Amazon, one of the biggest employers in the U.S. As you know, nearly 6,000 Amazon warehouse workers in Alabama will be voting whether to unionize, the first time this has happened in the company's history. If these warehouse workers do have enough votes to form a union, what will this mean for the future of Amazon and for the future of the labor movement?
I think those Amazon workers represent the fearlessness and courage of workers who are on the front lines, showing up to work every day and doing their very best to make sure those of us who have the privilege of staying at home remote get the packages that we need. And I think when they vote to form their union in the largest corporation in the world, they will send a message of hope to every Amazon worker and, frankly, all those 33 million workers that were just denied 15. It's a message of hope that when you join together, you can make things that seem impossible possible. And they are going to be able to sit down at a bargaining table and create a job that they can raise their families on and expect that their kids will do better than they've done. And it's a huge step forward for the American labor movement.
Well, SEIU International President Mary Kay Henry, thank you so much for your time and for your insights.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with our image of the day.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. #1 in the morning, #1 in the evening, with America's most watched newscast. #1 in late night versus the competition. The #1 news magazine on Friday nights. #1 in politics across this historic election versus the competition. The #1 daytime talk show. And #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news.
Tonight on Nightline, see a real medical miracle. Only the third person in America to receive a life-saving double lung transplant due to COVID. Saving Leo. Tonight, Nightline is there at every amazing step on ABC.
Meet the Prince, pretending to be part of one of the world's richest royal families.
A con so outrageous.
But
it was just the tip of the iceberg. I'm Whoopi Goldberg. This is the con.
All new and royally good. Wednesday on ABC. Next week, are you ready to wake up with GMA? Just say yes. With Jennifer Garner, Stephen A. Smith, and performances by Daddy Yankee and, wait for it, Kelly Rowland. Next week, say yes to Good Morning America.
Friday nights, 9/8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True Crime 2020. Friday nights, 9/8 Central on ABC.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
The reality is our country can collapse from within.
White lives matter.
You see the white power movement on the march.
You will not replace us!
Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads, it's meant to incite war.
From the KKK to Oklahoma City to Charlottesville, the new documentary event special.
We just need to start talking about race.
Homegrown hate, the war among us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now on ABC News Live.
And before we go tonight, we want to send out a huge note of gratitude to everyone for taking part in our special, Stop the Hate, here on ABC News Live and now streaming on Hulu. It was a massive undertaking, and we've received such wonderful feedback from all of you. So tonight, we leave you with this as our image of the day, the lights from a vigil in Fountain Valley, California. Community volunteers forming the words, Stop Asian Hate, sharing that message across the country. Tonight, as we hope you do the part in spreading love and stopping the hate. That's our show for this hour. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Juju Chang. Thanks for streaming with us.